But I've got to ask you first about your teammates' performance there.
Yeah, I'm proud of them. That's nerve-wracking, getting up in front of a bunch of people and having to hit a golf club. Obviously, we're basketball players, so we're not very good at this, but they make this event fun, so it's fun to have them out here.
Caitlin Clark never imagined her life would become a storm. She grew up loving the game, loving the silence before a shot, loving the rhythm of a bouncing ball echoing inside empty gyms. She loved the purity of it, the simplicity of it, the honesty of it. Basketball was the one place where effort equaled reward, where work never lied, where everything made sense. But the world she stepped into, this new era, this new spotlight, this new ecosystem, was far from simple. It was messy, political, emotional, fractured. And she didn't step into it gently. She crashed into it, unintentionally exposing every crack that had been waiting for pressure to reveal itself. Her rise was not like the rise of stars before her. It wasn't slow. It wasn't steady. It wasn't predictable. It was a cultural ignition, a blast wave, a phenomenon that didn't ask for permission and didn't wait for understanding. Companies chased her before she even knew what endorsements meant. TV networks redrew schedules around her. Cameras circled her like satellites. Fans followed her across states. Every arena she walked into felt too small. Every security plan felt outdated. Every expectation felt heavier than the last. And she carried it all with a kind of calm that made people forget she was still learning how to breathe in this new air. But somewhere else in the same universe, Wilson was fighting a different battle. One quieter, older, heavier. A battle made of years. Years of dominance. Years of sacrifice. Years of showing up when the lights were dim and the seats were half empty. Years of being told to wait, to be patient, to trust that coverage would grow, that broadcasts would improve, that endorsements would come. Years of hearing, "Your time is coming," when she already knew she'd been earning it. She wasn't bitter. She was tired. Tired of carrying the league on her back without the world noticing the weight that Owen Clark entered the WNBA. It wasn't just a rookie joining the league. It was a seismic event, a shift so sudden that you could feel it in the air. Commentators talked differently. Executives moved differently. The league behaved differently. Overnight, everything became louder. Fandom, criticism, expectations, agendas. And Wilson, one of the greatest players the league had ever seen, suddenly felt something she had never felt before, overshadowed. Not outplayed, not outperformed. Overshadowed by a narrative so powerful it drowned out resumes, accolades, and history. Clark never asked for this power. She never intended for it. But she couldn't escape it. She felt the shift too. Every time she walked onto the court, the noise followed. Every handshake line carried tension. Every play became a debate online. Every teammate's glance seemed to hold questions she couldn't answer. She felt watched, studied, interpreted. Fans demanded perfection. Critics waited for mistakes. Opponents wanted to prove a point. She wasn't playing basketball anymore. She was surviving IT. IT wasn't just the pressure of games. It was the pressure of narratives she never wrote. Every shot she took carried weight it didn't deserve. If she missed, it was proof she was overrated. If she made it, it became ammo for those who swore the league only pushed her for clicks. Even her celebrations were analyzed for hidden messages. Her silence was interpreted as arrogance. Her smiles were read as calculated branding moves. There was no version of her the world didn't try to control. In the locker room, she would sit quietly, lacing her shoes, pretending not to feel the eyes on her. Her teammates supported her, cared for her, protected her. But even they couldn't shield her from the expectations crushing her. Sometimes she saw the confusion in their expressions, the silent "why her?" lingering beneath their attempts to be supportive. Not jealousy, not resentment, just a genuine bewilderment at the machine that had chosen her as its centerpiece. A machine none of them fully understood. On the court, she could feel the energy shift when she touched the ball. Defenders pressed harder. Crowds grew louder. Refs grew stricter. It felt like everyone wanted something from her. Validation, humiliation, proof, answers. And she had none. She was trying to breathe in an environment that rarely allowed breathing. She was trying to learn, trying to grow, trying to enjoy the game she loved. But the world was too busy treating her like a symbol to let her be a player. Late at night, after games, she would scroll through the reactions, not because she wanted to, but because she needed to know what storm awaited her the next morning. Every headline seemed louder than the last. Every opinion seemed more aggressive. It was like being trapped inside a glass box where she could see everyone judging her, but couldn't respond without making things worse. She felt the weight of every word, every angle, every expectation. No rookie should ever have to carry that. She still showed up. She still worked. She still smiled for kids, stayed late for autographs, carried herself with grace she hadn't even mastered yet. But inside, she was navigating a battlefield no one prepared her for. Clark entered that golf course with innocence. She wasn't trying to make headlines. She wasn't trying to invade another sport. She wanted fun. She wanted a break. She wanted a day without expectations suffocating her. But the world doesn't treat people like her gently. The world turns curiosity into spectacle, and spectacle into chaos. What should have been a quiet escape became a storm the moment she stepped onto the grass. Cameras tilted. Fans swarmed. Broadcasters rewrote their rundowns on the fly. Golf influencers rushed to capture a moment they knew would go viral before she even swung the club. Clark, for a second, looked like any young woman stepping into a new environment, smiling, unsure, relaxed. But the world did not allow her the luxury of anonymity. Not anymore. She didn't create the noise. She didn't ask for the spotlight. She didn't engineer the frenzy that followed her. She simply existed in a space that wasn't used to someone like her walking in with that level of gravitational pull. The LPGA, the golfers, the organizers, none of them were prepared for what her presence would unleash. It wasn't just excitement. It was disruption. A disruption that revealed how thirsty the sports ecosystem had become for a figure who could connect worlds, merge fan bases, and turn an ordinary moment into a cultural flashpoint. And while Clark smiled through it, there was a quiet heaviness beneath her ease. People saw her swing a golf club. They didn't see the weight sitting on her shoulders. They saw the cameras. They didn't see what those cameras demanded. They saw the crowds. They didn't see how draining it is to be the reason a simple day outdoors becomes a frenzy of online debate, media narratives, and jealous whispers from corners of the sports universe. She wanted peace. The world gave her interpretation, dissection, comparison, headlines. The Clark effect, the Clark invasion, the Clark versus LPGA marketing machine. Suddenly, she wasn't just swinging a golf club. She was being positioned as a disruptor, a threat, a savior, a symbol. Everything except what she actually was in that moment. A young athlete trying to catch her breath. Because that's the truth people forget about icons. They're not built for chaos. They're thrown into it. They learn to smile through pressure that would crack most people. Clark didn't go to that golf course to challenge another sport. She was chased there by a fame that never sleeps. Fame that follows her with the persistence of a shadow and the intensity of a spotlight too bright to escape. Fame that magnifies every gesture into mythology. And yet, through all the noise, there was something undeniably pure about the way she played. She laughed at bad shots. She shrugged off awkward moments. She embraced the experience like a kid trying something new. It reminded people that beneath the business, the branding, the broadcast hype, there is still a human being inside the phenomenon. A person who once dreamed of moments like these and now finds herself trapped in the extreme version of those dreams. Clark didn't mean to cause waves, but the waves came anyway. They always do for people who carry entire eras on their backs. And as she walked the fairways that day, she wasn't just a guest in another sport. She was a mirror reflecting the uncomfortable truth of modern fame. Even innocence becomes a headline when the world decides you're too big to hide. The moment she stepped onto the course, everything changed. A pro AM that normally moved with a relaxed, easy rhythm transformed into an event with the intensity of a championship final. Fans swarmed areas that had never seen crowds. Kids pushed through ropes carrying basketballs. Photographers ran between holes like they were covering a presidential motorcade. Even the golfers, athletes accustomed to focus and composure, found themselves pausing, staring, absorbing the surrealness of Clark's presence. This was the moment the sports world realized something. Clark wasn't a basketball star. She was a cultural force. And the LPGA knew exactly what to do with a force. They didn't hesitate. They didn't hold back. They promoted her, amplified her, celebrated her. They turned a single appearance into a televised event. They paired her with Nelly Korda, the world #1, because they understood the value of collision, the power of crossover, the magic of momentum. The LPGA made an intentional choice. Treat Clark like the biggest star in the building, even if she had never swung a professional club in her life. The comparison was unspoken but deafening. This is what investment looks like. This is what visibility looks like. This is what effort looks like. And the truth stung, because for years, players like Wilson had begged for this level of care. They had begged for marketing. They had begged for consistency. They had begged for the league to amplify them with the same energy they poured into the game. And now, watching the LPGA do it for someone who wasn't even part of their sport, it felt like a wound. Not Clark's fault, but a wound nonetheless. Then the bomb dropped. Clark signed a multi-year endorsement deal with the LPGA. The world reacted like it was fiction, like it was impossible, like it was outrageous. But it was real. A basketball star had become a brand ambassador for professional golf. And that deal spoke louder than any press conference the WNBA had ever held. Wilson felt the echo of that moment in her chest. So did every veteran in the league. It wasn't jealousy. It was grief. It was frustration. It was the painful recognition that the system rewarded popularity, not longevity. Attention, not excellence. Visibility, not legacy. Clark didn't create that imbalance. She revealed it, and then came the tweet. One simple, emotional, honest expression from Wilson. A moment of vulnerability. A crack in her composure caused by years of being unheard. She didn't attack Clark. She didn't insult her. She simply let the world see her frustration. But the internet doesn't deal in nuance. It deals in conflict, in villains, in sides. And within minutes, Wilson's words were twisted into a narrative she never intended. Fans fought. Analysts spun theories. Media capitalized. Clark kept quiet. Her silence became a shield and a target at the same time. People interpreted it however they wanted. Grace, fear, arrogance, strategy. She couldn't win. No matter what she did, someone would say she did it wrong. But Clark wasn't silent because she didn't care. She was silent because she was overwhelmed. Because the weight of being the face of a new era was crushing her. Because no one had prepared her for what it meant to carry the hopes of a league, while also being accused of stealing its spotlight. Wilson, meanwhile, felt misunderstood. Fans attacked her online. People accused her of jealousy. Analyst panels dissected her emotions like they were weaknesses. She didn't hate Clark. She hated the system that put them in this impossible position. A system that failed to elevate stars early enough, forcing them to compete for a spotlight too small for the talent it needed to hold. The tension that built between them wasn't personal. It was systemic. It was generational. It was emotional. And it created an atmosphere that felt electric and explosive at the same time. Clark could feel it every time Wilson guarded her. Not hostility, intensity. Not resentment, expectation. Wilson wanted her to be great, truly great, because greatness elevates everyone. But she also wanted the world to remember the greatness that existed before Clark arrived. Every matchup between them became appointment television. Every accidental shoulder bump became a trending clip. Every foul became a debate. Every facial expression became evidence. The world wasn't watching basketball. They were watching two women navigate the emotional reality of a league undergoing a transformation too fast for anyone to process. Clark started to understand that she wasn't just shaping a new era. She was fighting the ghosts of the old one. She was stuck in a war she didn't start and couldn't escape. A war between expectation and fairness. Between new fame and old wounds. Between what she represented and what she never intended to. And Wilson, strong, proud, brilliant Wilson, found herself fighting to protect the soul of a league she had sacrificed so much for. She didn't want Clark to fail. She wanted the world to widen the spotlight, not redirect it. She wanted respect not just for herself, but for every woman whose blood and sweat built the foundation that Clark now stood on. The league itself felt the pressure. Executives scrambled to manage narratives. They wanted Clark's popularity, but feared the divisions it created. They wanted Wilson's leadership, but struggled to support her publicly without appearing biased. They prayed for harmony in a moment designed for conflict. But conflict isn't always destructive. Sometimes it reveals truth. Clark revealed the truth that women's sports had been undersold for years. Wilson revealed the truth that success, without recognition, becomes a burden. And together, despite never choosing to be rivals, they became the symbols of a revolution bigger than both of them. Clark's rise exposed something the industry had long avoided. Fans weren't ignoring women's sports because they lacked talent. They were ignoring them because they were never shown the story. She proved that the moment you offer people a star to follow, a narrative to believe in, a reason to gather around a screen, they show up. They show up in record numbers. They line up for jerseys. They shift algorithms. And they turn quiet arenas into global spectacles. Her presence didn't manufacture demand. It revealed demand. It pulled back the curtain on a fan base that had been there all along, waiting for the world to treat their passion like it mattered. Clark didn't create a movement. She amplified one. She gave a microphone to millions who had been shouting into the void. And suddenly, the void shouted back, exposed a different truth, one less glamorous, more painful, but equally necessary. She showed what happens when excellence is taken for granted, when dominance becomes invisible, when a player does everything right, wins championships, lifts franchises, carries teams, and still feels overshadowed by the spotlight that never seems to swing her way. Wilson's frustration wasn't jealousy, it was exhaustion. It was the weight of years spent watching others get opportunities she had earned over and over again. It was the quiet ache of knowing that greatness doesn't automatically guarantee a platform, not when the world hasn't been taught to value your presence. Wilson's vulnerability forced conversations people preferred to avoid. Conversations about fairness, bias, marketing, representation, and the emotional cost of being overlooked in a system that claims to celebrate winners. The irony is that neither woman asked for this role. Neither asked to be pitted against the other, to carry the cultural baggage of an entire industry, or to serve as the faces of competing truths. Clark didn't step into the spotlight to steal anything from anyone. She stepped into it because the world placed her there. Wilson didn't voice her frustrations to diminish someone else. She voiced them because the world had diminished her first. Yet the public, the media, and the machinery behind sports drew lines anyway. They labeled them rivals. They framed every quote as a clash, every moment as a comparison, every silence as a statement. But beneath all the noise, a more powerful reality emerged. These two women were never fighting each other. They were fighting the same broken system from opposite sides. And that is exactly why they became symbols, unintentional, undeniable symbols. Clark represented the promise of what women's sports could become when given full belief, full support, and full visibility. Wilson represented the truth of what women's sports had endured in the years before that belief existed. Together, they embodied the past and future colliding in real time. One spotlight exposing the hunger of a rising generation, the other spotlight exposing the wounds of the generation that came before. Their stories didn't clash. They completed each other, the eye and the end. Their rivalry wasn't a rivalry at all. It was a mirror held up to an industry finally forced to confront itself. Clark illuminated the heights women's sports could reach. Wilson illuminated the depths they had once been kept in. And standing on opposite sides of the same changing landscape, they became the dual heartbeat of a revolution that was no longer waiting to be validated. They became proof that this moment, this surge, this wave, this awakening, didn't belong to one player or one team. It belonged to all of them. And because of Clark and Wilson, the world had no choice but to see it. And in the end, as the dust of controversy settled, one thing became undeniable. Caitlin Clark didn't just elevate women's sports. She exposed them. She exposed the gaps, the neglect, the missed opportunities, the fragile structures, and the desperate need for reinvention.